Stephanie Love. Today's video is on double wedding ring. I have several videos in this series. This one is going to focus on sewing tips for several of the pieces. Stay tuned! The double wedding ring has several pieces that need to be assembled. I'm currently working on a queen size double wedding ring that is scrappy, and so I actually use this project as a leaders and enders project. And if you're familiar with Bonnie Hunter, she has a method of always keeping a project going in the machine. So instead of cutting off threads between each project, she runs a patch of a different project through the machine. And that's how I've been piecing this double wedding ring quilt. With the different pieces that are in the double wedding ring, I store them in separate plastic bins, which stores the pieces that make up the ring. So these are the 4 pieces from the block set that are symmetrical and the same size. They're slightly smaller at the top and wider at the bottom. So you can see these pieces here. And I store these in their own plastic bin. And because I have so many pieces, I have a larger plastic bin for these. As they come off of the machine, I have another bin that takes these pairs that are stitched together. So when you're piecing these particular units, you're going to piece them together in pairs, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But the last bin that I have stores the edge pieces. These are the pieces that are non-symmetrical units that are cut from the block. And you do need pairs of these, so even though they're not symmetrical, you do want to cut them with right sides together so that you get a left-hand piece and a right-hand piece. And I'll show you how that goes assembled in a second. So I keep all of those pieces separate. And what I try to do is work on all the same pieces at the same time. The part that I'm working on now that I'm going to take you through today is the assembly of these trapezoidal shapes. So what I do is I just pick up pick up a pair of these and stitch them together. You want to match the notches, so there's a notch here on the side, and you want to match these notches together. And it doesn't matter if you stitch the right side or the left side, because they're symmetrical. It really only matters if you are if you're really trying to plan the color. Mine is scrappy, so I'm just picking these up randomly and stitching them together randomly. You're going to use a standard 1/4 inch seam, so I have my machine set to a 1/4 inch stitch, and I'm using a foot with a metal guide on the side to help guide the fabric. So you just stitch these together, and you can chain piece them, and they go together pretty easily. Those notches are really helpful in keeping these pieces together. Okay, so once you get a few of these done, and like I said, what I do is I keep this bin, I actually keep this plastic bin underneath the edge of my clear table, so as they come off, I just stick them in the bin. When the bin gets too tall, then I press some of the pieces open. So here on a cookie sheet, and this is something that I'm always going into my kitchen and swiping kitchen utensils to use in my sewing studio. But as these pieces get larger, I use the cookie sheet to store the pieces. So as you get these pairs, you want to press the seams open. And pressing the seams open is really going to help reduce the bulk and help you as you stitch these pieces together. So these pieces are forming the outside of the ring. So you need 4 of these trapezoidal pieces to make up the ring in the center. So you're going to stitch 2 pair of them together. Again, mine is scrappy, so I just pick up random pairs. And the only thing that I'm really paying attention to as I piece this is just making sure that the same fabric doesn't get pieced next to itself. But other than that, it's pretty random. So once you get the 4 patch together, again, you're going to go to your iron and press the seams open. So I have a few of these done. So here's a 4 patch unit, so you can kind of see it starting to curve, and on the back my seams are pressed open. The next step in forming these rings is you need a right hand piece and a left hand piece. So in my bin, in this bin, I have them sorted with the left hand piece and the right hand piece. So these are laid out so that I get the right pieces here. So you want to take your right hand piece on the right side of the ring, right sides together, and match the notches. And this is a case where it's really great to have the notches because you can kind of see on the end here, your piece is going to peek out from the edge of that seam. And so if you didn't have the notches there, you'd have to eyeball it, and 9 times out of 10 I get that alignment wrong when I have to eyeball things like that. So again, you're still using a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm just going to take a couple more pieces here. And sometimes it can help too, as I'm stitching these, even though I have these marked as the left hand and the right hand pieces, I still do like to look and make sure that the pieces line up, and that I have the right pieces actually getting stitched to the ring. So that's a quick check for me. And since I rarely actually chain piece the project like this, these are, like I said, they're leaders and enders, so I'm only doing these a couple at a time. But it's really amazing how quickly this adds up. This bin, this plastic bin here was filled to the top with pieces, and I can actually see the bottom of the bin now. Okay, so we've gotten quite a few of those done. So once you have the right hand side piece, then you can piece the left hand side. So again, you'll take that and you'll press the seams open. And try not to worry too much about any extra pieces or any extra fabric that you see on the end there. When you're sewing curved pieces, they're very forgiving. The curved pieces are very forgiving in terms of allowing you to take up extra fabric or not having seam allowances that are perfect, because usually because these are all bias cut, you can usually get them to go where you want them to go and lay flat. Alright, so I'll do one more here just so that you can see the completed ring here. So again, like I said, I don't usually chain piece these, but I try to do the same step or finish one step before I move on to the next one. And so here's a ring that has the completed ring with the 4 center pieces and then the 2 ends that are non-symmetrical units. So you need to make enough of these to go to complete a ring. So 8 of them will do one full ring. So that's how you would assemble these pieces. So this gets you pretty far on the double wedding ring, and in the next couple of videos I'll show you how to start forming the outside of the ring and then stitching it to the inside. Happy quilting!